when the captain of the Iranian vessel, the Tuska, ignored multiple radioed American warnings, the guided missile destroyer Spruance, one of more than a dozen Navy ships enforcing the blockade, ordered the Tuska's crew to evacuate its engine room. This is pretty dramatic stuff, and CENTCOM put out video of it. This is what I want to talk to Becca Wasser about, because this is quite an interesting operation. Spruance fired several rounds from an MK-47 gun into the boat's engine room, into the propulsion system. So you said, what the heck is an MK-45? It's this big gun that's on the deck here. It can shoot 60 to 20 rounds per minute. These rounds are 5-inch diameter projectiles. They weigh 70 pounds each and contain the equivalent of 10 pounds of TNT. Can you imagine this thing coming through the engine room while you're working on the boat? That's why we told them they might want to leave. I don't know how it didn't sink the boat. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit got on the vessel. They were searching it. It is now in our custody. This is what Becca Wasser does for a living. So we thought we'd pull somebody in who knew the ins and outs of an operation like this, leads our defense coverage at Bloomberg Economics. I just love the fact people ask me, how does Bloomberg Economics have defense coverage? It might not seem obvious to everybody watching or listening, but your analysis helps economic forecasters do their jobs when it comes right down to it, right?
Absolutely. It's trying to understand what might happen in various times where there's conflict, or even if something is going to tip over into a conflict. And I spent years and years studying all of this, working very closely with the Pentagon, doing war games with the Pentagon and with allies to actually learn, what does all of this mean? What are some of the indications and warnings that we see when conflict is imminent, but also when operations are ongoing? What does that actually entail? What is the further risk, and what might it mean more broadly? So this is why we're doing this kind of work.
Well, we're so lucky to have you here. Tell us how important this particular operation was, and how is that boat not at the bottom of the Gulf?
Well, I think first and foremost, this was the first real demonstration of the U.S. enforcing the blockade. Sure, it has redirected vessels in the past, largely by radioing them and telling them it's not a great idea for you to keep going, and they've all turned around. And I think CENTCOM said today it's up to 27 vessels that have been redirected. But this is the first example of the U.S. fully enforcing it by actually taking action. And we saw this being done in a very responsible way. You know, first there was the radioed warnings, and then after no response and no, redirection of the ship, actually taking action. And here, the crew used the deck guns to great degree. What they purposely did was try and disable the ship, try and take out the engine, rather than trying to blast, a hole through the hull. In a way that could actually have it sink,
and they
or
can
have
be
it
that
listing.
precise.
They can be that
We're
precise.
showing video of this for those of you on YouTube. This is the actual firing of the gun. They were pretty far off there. When they're warning, Becca, how do we know that they're actually hearing the warning?
So you can definitely hear, and a lot of times you have had responses. And I think looking at what we've seen already with another 26 vessels hearing warnings and turning around, it would be it would be, hard to believe that there's only one vessel that wouldn't hear those warnings.
Understood.
And so some of it's being radioed, but, there's also other ways of signaling at the same time.